Happy 200 encounters, Corinne.
Pew, 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 pew. 200 encounters.
200.
Someone do the math. How many emails have we read from everyone?
Thousands. I mean, there were some episodes. Right now we read, 4 per episode? But I feel like there were episodes where we were reading 5 to 6 to 8. I don't know. We have read so many. And we still have almost 9,000.
So many.
Yeah. We're never stopping.
Even I was just going through our inbox and picking out emails for the next a couple episodes, couple encounters, and it's so difficult because I get caught up. It'll take me 3 hours to pick out an email to read because I'm reading them all and I'm filing them away because I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that one in a future episode. And we just keep collecting them. There's so many good ones. This podcast will never end.
Never. It's kind of like Pokemon. Got to collect them all.
Got to collect them all. And they never stop happening. So it's an impossible task. It'll last a lifetime.
The ghosts are busy. They have booked social calendars and are constantly haunting. You look so comfortable.
Thanks. My voice is back more from the last encounters.
Woo!
I'm as comfortable as I can be in feeling uncomfortable in sickness. But I did my hair and I was like, that counts. You don't have to do makeup if you do your hair. That's my rule.
I agree, actually. I think you do one and you feel better.
Totally. This is 2 Girls, 1 Ghost.
2 girls, 1 ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That's Corinne.
Hello.
I'm Sabrina. And this is our 200th encounter episode. So we're going to do a little special something.
Yeah.
Over the years, people have listened to our podcast. You have listened. The ghosts have listened. Some dolls have listened.
Your creepy kids have listened.
Mm-hmm.
Your pets have listened.
Yeah. And so some of you have had some haunting experiences occur while listening. And then some of you have emailed us and they're like, excuse me, who is this strange voice in your podcast? So we are going to share with you a couple EVPs from over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition, we're going to share a couple stories. I think we wanted to start with 2 stories, right? And then end with 2 stories.
Yeah, let's do that.
I have a really nice one to end the whole episode with.
Okay, beautiful.
Because a lot of the hauntings end up being really scary, but there's one that's like, oh, that's kind and gentle.
Oh, okay. I think this is good because I picked very short emails that were more of just like, oh, see, here's the thing. We started this podcast with, what did we get? We got the black Yeti microphones or whatever.
Blue Yeti. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Blue Yeti Black Edition. That's what it was. Those things broke constantly. And we were like, this is so the ghost's fault. And there's a curse on 2 Girls, 1 Ghost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then we did research and we tried to find equipment that had the reputation of being pretty ghost proof, which is really ironic.
You literally found this. And it said ghost proof.
Basically, it did. I watched a bunch of reviews on YouTube and it was like, these are the least easy to manipulate, blah, blah, blah. That was the whole reason we bought them. But I find it ironic because now when I watch YouTube videos or whatever of people ghost hunting, they use this equipment to try to capture EVPs. So yeah, maybe that one review I watched and took to heart and was like, we have to buy this stuff, was wrong. But we surely have captured a lot and it's clearly affected a lot of people over the years. So we have a whole folder in our inbox dedicated to the emails people send us about our podcast being haunted. So we pulled a few.
It's called We Are Haunted.
We Are Haunted.
I'm having a moment of I can't think of anything else. I'm seeing you wearing that sweatshirt and I now really want to put mine on. So I'm going to go change into it because it's all I can think about and I won't stop thinking about it until I put it on. So please hold.
Okay. Trading out the alien one. Wow. Shocked.
I know. I also have a gift I want to show you for you.
Okay.
1 second.
Beautiful.
So much better.
Feeling good, feeling great.
I feel great. I feel like we are in sync.
Speaking of aliens, because you just had the alien, but your alien sweatshirt just reminded me, were you following at all Mexico unveiling those alien bodies?
No.
There was as our Congress was working hard to be I don't know, maybe aliens exist. Mexico was literally, their government was wheeling out alien bodies that they have had for years. And they're these like little tiny creatures that almost look like fossilized. Like it looks like calcium buildup all over them, or like packed clay. And they're petite. They're like 2.5 feet tall or something like that. Really long skulls. They've done DNA testing, and in the DNA testing it said,
turns out I'm 100% that bitch.
no Lizzo here. But apparently the DNA is significantly different in that it would suggest that the species of alien is not at all related to us, like couldn't be a part of our evolution in any way. And they did x-rays of the bodies. Oh, and by the way, this is found in like a cave, like a bog in a cave in like Cusco, Peru or something like that. But one of them had eggs, like 3 eggs in them, like they were pregnant.
No.
Anyway, the guy who's doing a lot of the testing, I guess, has been involved in some other things that have been potentially categorized as hoaxes. I don't think he believes them to be hoaxes, but like they've been proved to not be true. But yeah, I can't believe you missed that. It was all over the internet the past week. But I've also been sick and scrolling TikTok for a week straight. So
it's interesting. My TikTok has all of a sudden become, what's his name? The Steve Irwin's son, and like animals and weird things. And so this woman came, I actually wanted to send this to you, but I ended up going through like every single one of her videos. So it was a video of, she discovered her hen was like laying on top of like a bunch of eggs that were not her own, and you could tell like they were little like chicks inside of them, and she has no idea what kind of animal they are.
This is so exciting.
And so she has them in her incubator, and they've been incubating, and she does like the candling test to see like how developed they are, and she has no idea what they are and won't know until they hatch.
There are certain birds that do that. They lay their eggs in other birds' nests to make the other birds take care of their young.
I love that. That's so funny. You do the work for me.
Normally, it's a little more obvious that it happens because the birds, I don't even remember the name of them, but they're like big. You know, like their eggs are quite large in comparison to like a robin's egg or something like that. But I guess chicken eggs are big, so maybe they're all blending in a little bit together.
Yeah. So I'll keep you updated, because now I'm sure everyone's super. Well, people were like, it looks like a snake. And she was like, please stop saying it's a snake.
Because snakes love to eat chicken eggs.
But I didn't know that snakes grow in eggs like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't spend time looking at snakes. Okay, can I show you your gift, and then we need to do our episode?
Why do I have another gift? What did you get me a gift for?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I am obsessed with you. And
you're in your gifting era. I've never received so much in my life.
Okay, so we had a really, really wild first weekend of the tour, and it was kind of such a whirlwind. And when I got back, I was like, I really wish that I had thought of journaling and writing it all down. So I got us these witchy grimoire-esque journals. Look at these pages.
That is so intense. I'm obsessed with it. I know that you want me to use it to journal about what happens to us during tour, but I'm for sure just like gonna fill it with like recipes and random odds and ends.
Yes. So I have one for you. I am gonna start. So I got that like Polaroid printer thing. So I'm gonna start printing like one photo from each city and put it in, and then I'll like journal a little bit about the experience.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And if you don't journal, then at least I have the journal and we can have it to remember.
I'll just write random stuff we learn about on the tour.
Okay, that's cool. So I found it on Amazon. If you look at the Amazon listing, it like has like, it looks like a grimoire. Like the examples are like drawings of potions and stuff.
See, that's what I think that's why I'm like, oh, I'm thinking the potion route. So I'm like, put a like blueberry muffin recipe in there, put like a little tincture, something.
Maybe I'll open it, and on the first page, I'll put like my mac and cheese recipe on there for you.
Oh, you should.
Okay. So would you like to read one email first? And then I'll read an email, and then we'll go through some EVPs, and then we'll end with a couple emails.
Great. This is a great transition too, because we were just talking about us being on tour, which we are. But before going on tour, which this is our first ever tour, we did do a few one-off shows, and a couple of those shows were earlier this year in the spring.
Yes.
And we have an email from someone who went to one of our shows.
Oh, And we had a lot of hauntings happen there.
So many hauntings. That was wild to experience. Yeah, and people are still feeling it, I guess, outside of the theater. Hello, ghostly gals. First off, I want to say I love your podcast and I've been binge watching it since November of 2022. I was also at the live show in Portland, Maine and was ecstatic when you replied to me on Instagram. Haha. Since your live show in Portland, my phone has not been working correctly between my sister and I. Note, we both have iPhones. Pictures we send to each other or gifts we send to each other will not show up in the text messages. It will just be an image in the download button. I'll send a picture so you guys understand. My sister and her boyfriend both have iPhones as well, and when they send pictures, it will show up. It is only between my sister and I where the photos or the gifts will not show up. Nothing will work. My phone has worked until I went to your live show. I also have sent you guys an email about my ghost stories. I sent it on Monday, April 17th. So I'm not sure if you guys got it, but from what I can see on my phone, I can't find it. And my mom can vouch for me. She was sitting next to me when I wrote the email, but I cannot find the email anywhere on my phone. Not in my sent folder, not in my drafts, nowhere. I then went to do a voice message to tell my sister about how I emailed you guys and I can't find the email anywhere. And then that voice message would not send to her. I tried multiple times to send it to her, but it just wouldn't. I did try to debunk it by sending a voice message about something else, and that did send to her. So only the voice message about me talking about the email that I sent to you would not send to her. I'm not sure if it's your ghost Sven or Billy the Idol or the ghost I talked about that didn't want me to send my ghost story in, but I know for a fact that your podcast is haunted. Kylie. Sorry, Kylie, there were a few more sentences in there, but I was struggling to get through, so I had to do some trimming.
Okay, well, it's so weird because we've had this happen before with emails where like it just doesn't send through. And I'm like, well, why? What is it? Is it like a scary thing? Does the ghost not want to be outed?
I don't know. Or do you remember in our very first year of podcasting, I specifically remember reading an email and I read it sitting in the Lexus dealership in Watertown, Massachusetts. And I'm reading this email. I'm like, that is such a good email. And then I go to find it like a year later.
Gone.
For like a year. Could not find it. And then what? It was like year 2 or year 3 that someone sent us this email. It was the exact email I'd already read. And I remember responding to it.
I know, it's so weird.
We asked that person, we're like, did you send this to us previously? And they're like, what? No.
I don't understand it. I don't.
Me neither.
That's like a weird glitch thing. And then it's like, what timeline are we in? I don't know.
I know.
It's so weird.
The electronics things. Oh man, I had a glitch thing happen to me the other day.
What?
Before we went on tour, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I have to tell Sabrina this.
Okay.
And for the life of me, I can't remember.
Well, if you do end up remembering while we're recording, let me know.
Okay.
Okay. I have a story that's a bit scary. So last year, we decided to do a thing, which was all of October, read really, really spooky stories, covered demonic possessions, and like scary things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We experienced so many hauntings, and then so too did our listeners. And we had so many people, especially the episode Julia's Possession. I think it was like, I can't remember what number episode it was, but it was like the one where you and I, your candle thing happened. Like you and I were having so much happen.
Mm-hmm.
So this is from our listener, Whitney. And it's just called Julia's Possession. It's very short, but it's very spooky. Hey girls, I was listening to the newest episode, Nuns Are Possessed, and I heard you all were having some weird stuff happen while covering that episode. Well, I wanted to write in and tell you, so did I. That night, when I went to sleep, my husband woke me up and something unseen was pulling our covers up into the air on the bed. The blanket was literally hovering above us.
Oh my gosh.
It happened twice, and immediately when I woke up, I could tell there was a negative presence in the room. Nothing has happened since, but definitely spooky. Anywho, love the show. Sending positive vibes from Texas, Whitney.
Why is everything levitating with this episode? Julia's Possession. It was my flame levitated off of the candle. Whitney's blankets are just floating on up in the air.
I also remembered that story. I'm pretty sure a lot of the possessions and hauntings began when like the nuns woke up to a man in their, like at the foot of their bed, which so it's a weird connection.
So creepy.
Freaky. Okay, well, what else is freaky? A voice. Many voices in our podcast.
So many. Oh my gosh. If we had $1 for every time someone was like, did you hear this at this time code? Either emailing it to us, commenting on TikTok, DMing, or commenting on TikTok. I was going to say YouTube, DMing it to us. Like, we have so many.
Right.
Every week we have people messaging us.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, we just found ones that are very clear. And it took us a while to find some of them. But once we found them.
Yep. So we're going to play a few EVPs that we have found and collected and put together. And a few of you, if you came to our show earlier in the spring, you've heard these.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them. But we want to share them with you now. So let's start with this one.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we spent how long trying to find this?
20 minutes.
Okay. So,
I guess, was not very well receptive to these children with hydrocephalus. And they
let's fight again.
children with hydrocephalus. And they children with hydrocephalus. And they
It's a growl.
It's so freaky. Also, I was not speaking proper English in that episode, but you can tell that I was also sick there too. So
Really? Oh. Full
yeah,
circle.
I was super snotty. Full circle. I wonder what will come out on this episode. More EVPs. That was so weird though, because it's like we were both talking, and it's not like you're going over the episode. And also, we put a lot of attention on trying to eliminate as much background noise and any odd noises and taps and anything that could be viewed as an EVP or just like distracting background noise. We go through all of that in editing. And so when we miss stuff like this, it's like, did we miss it? Or did this EVP almost like come through after the fact?
Or did it not want us to hear it? And so like it like subdued itself until it was released to the masses.
Right. Because that seems like an obvious one that we would hear.
Yeah, I feel like when we're editing, sometimes like, I don't know, I feel like you pay way more attention to like the background noise and I pay way more attention to like the ums and stupid things we say. And so I could understand why we would miss it. And it's an hour plus long episode. We catch how many? So it's understandable.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. But the next two that we're going to share, these ones really get me because it was when we were putting the show together that we had a realization. Let's play the first one. What episode is this one from?
Episode 67.
Okay.
You know, like in hospital waiting rooms, like the walls are green or whatever color is like the color that means calmness.
some elevator music.
Do. That's what, Jeopardy?
Oh my god, but would that be torture though? What if it was just one song on repeat?
Over and over. Well, then that's hell. Then you know you've made it to hell.
Lives in a pineapple under the sea.
Will you play just the word again?
Do. That's what, Jeopardy?
Oh my god, but would that be torture though? What if it was just one song on repeat?
Over and over. Well, then that's hell. Then you know you've made it to hell.
Lives in a pineapple under the sea.
It's very clearly saying hello.
Hello.
And it sounds like a
Hello?
younger male.
It does.
Hello.
Okay, so this was 2018. This was December 2nd, 2018, episode 67 that we heard hello. And we're both talking. We're
Yeah.
both like I didn't live with anyone at the time. We know that there was no one saying that in your background.
Right. And also keep in mind, in order for these microphones, yes, they pick up some background noise like sirens and stuff. But in order for it to pick up a word that clearly, the mouth has to be very close to the microphone.
And you would think that there would be more, like if someone walked in and was like hello and then was like, oops, sorry, like we would draw attention to it.
There would be more noise. Yeah.
We'd be like, oh no, it's okay, like we'll cut that out. Like there was none of that though. Like we did not notice it until other people drew attention to hearing this.
And
Okay.
then this episode, what episode is this and what year is it?
Okay, so one was December of 2018 and then episode 29. So this was, March 18th, 2018. Okay. So months apart
Yeah.
and different apartments, at least for me. I wasn't living in the same place.
Also, this one, Corinne, this is the episode that we had to re-record 4 times. You had to take a sick day, and I went to LMU and into a study room, like one of those quiet rooms. So there's no one in there with me. There's no one with you.
Nope. Yet clearly someone was.
A little. That'd be a hard move for his skinny little legs to reach out and.
I don't know. If any dog can do it, I believe Wrinkles can. Oh my gosh, this
well-
could be a Wrinkles volume of his little children's book.
It sounds like he says love.
It's the same voice.
Same voice. Months later.
It's so weird.
That's a 9-month separation of time. We know we were both completely alone. You were basically in like a soundproof room.
Yes.
And even if you weren't, the fact that it's the same voice when these 2 episodes were recorded in completely different locations.
I know. So is it Sven?
I don't know, but we know that at least one person was with our podcast actively in the year of 2018.
It's so wild to me.
It is.
I really want a medium who like a Susan, like a Taylor and Morgan have Susan.
Yeah, on Creeps and Crimes.
On Creeps and Crimes. That I want someone to like spend a significant amount of time with us, maybe like while we're recording, and pick up who's with us.
I know. It is so interesting too, because when we do talk to mediums, like there are people that come forward. And even back in the spring, like there were so many spirits and like shadows walking around on stage that even people that don't normally identify as like being super in tune with the paranormal and don't feel that they have that ability, we're seeing stuff.
Someone also came to our stage manager at the Toronto show and was like emotional. And I don't know if you're out there, please email us what happened, because we only got like the relayed message. They came to the stage manager and was emotional and said there was a spirit standing behind Sabrina the entire show. It was an older woman who looked a lot like her and was there with her the entire show.
Isn't that wild?
It's so strange.
I feel like one day we'll have the answers ourselves too, because I do think we're both becoming a lot more open and like letting things in and developing what's naturally there.
And we have our grimoires now.
And now we have our grimoires. Do you remember that EVP too? I can't even remember what episode it was. I should have pulled it, but I can't remember now. So it would be probably impossible for me to find. But there was one that we were talking about something.
We were talking about something? Okay,
all thousands and thousands of hours of audio of us. We were talking about something that I don't know if it had to do with like a car or a train or a plane or something like that. But we were talking about something like that. And in the background, it sounded like a big whoosh, like a ooh. Do you remember that? It was years ago.
Oh, that just gave me chills.
And it freaked a lot of people out because it was like, so it would almost like vibrate through your headphones. It was really loud. Do you remember that?
I do. I have no idea how I would be able to locate what it is, but it reminds me of a more recent EVP that we caught on Sinisterhood.
Yes. And by we caught, we meant we were on Sinisterhood.
Yes, yeah.
And
they caught it.
They caught it and sent it to us. And we're like, what the heck? It came through your track, your audio.
Okay, so I'm going to share this one and we can also put it in the video. So we went on Sinisterhood's Freaky Friday episode. This is a couple months ago. We both shared like some of our spooky encounters in life. I shared the story that I often share, which is the one about my sister being possessed. And I did not know anything happened. I'll just play it and then you can explain how you experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right.
When we first moved into this house, I was like 4. He had one night fallen asleep on the couch. And he woke up to like a strange noise. And my dad also has a long history of paranormal stuff. And he said like the second he gets to the stairwell, he was like, gut instinct, something's wrong. There's someone in the house, like that kind of feeling. And he starts towards my sister's room. And when he touched the door handle, he said it was ice cold. And that feeling got worse. And so he opens the door. And he said it was like all of the air was sucked out of the room. He looks and my sister is asleep in bed. But all of a sudden, eyes closed, she like turns to him and out of her mouth comes a deep guttural voice that says, "Get out."
Oh my gosh.
How in the world?
A deep guttural voice that says, "Get out."
The fact that no one else heard it, except for me, I did hear it. I heard it come through. But it's so much louder now.
And at the exact moment.
Yeah, it was like, opens the mouth, get out. It's so weird. It's like, what are these horns in the back? It sounds like a train horn.
And I'm not near a train.
The fact that it's, again, you have to be kind of close to the microphone for it to pick up. Here is me getting further and further and further away from my microphone. My microphone's now on top of my head. My microphone's now pointed away from me. So the fact that it was that intense right on your microphone, like that should be coming through your windows. You should be able to hear that. And you didn't. You didn't hear it. Heather and Christy didn't hear it.
You heard it.
I was the only one that heard it. But then I like looked at everyone else and no one was reacting. So it's like, oh, it just must be background noise. Moving on.
Right. Because did you know it was coming from my side, or did you weren't sure?
I had no idea whose track it was coming from. I just knew it was coming out right then. And I almost said something, but then when I looked at Heather and Christy, they weren't reacting. And you didn't call attention to it or like re-say your story. So I was like, it must not be on your side. Maybe it was like in the background of one of their tracks, and that's why they're not saying anything, because they weren't speaking, so they can just take it out and post.
Right.
But it was
so
you.
Weird. It was me. It's so weird.
It's so weird. It's so weird because that one was like, that happened live, but the only person who heard it was me. No one else heard it, especially you, who like it should have been so loud it was screeching through your...
Yeah. Because then Heather and Christy said that then when they were editing, it was very clearly on my side. Like they couldn't cut it out because it was happening over my speaking.
Yeah. We have 4 separate tracks. Everyone else was silent. Yours was you talking and then this blaring noise.
Ghost
a train. Which I am curious, like the fact that it happened when it did in that point in the story, is this something that's trying to bleep out the part that says like get out because they're trying to not have you deliver that warning?
How many times have I already said it?
I know. Maybe they're like, oh my gosh, stop. But you're in a new place. You were in a new place when you read that story. I don't think you had told that story yet in the apartment you were in at the time.
I have a theory.
What?
Okay. We talk a lot about, and we've read stories of like this like ghostly train station that like transports spirits between different realms. I almost like to picture that a ghostly train arrived to my station at that moment. Like my spirit guides, this is like the good version. My spirit guides were like somewhere in the ether being like, oh no, she's talking about it again. We have to arrive just in time to protect her. And then like, as I'm telling the scariest part of the story, the train is arriving and my
into the station.
Yeah. Like jumping off the train. They're like, we're coming, Sabrina.
Hey, that's possible. And maybe that's why there was someone standing behind you at the last show we did for the Conjuring house tour, because they're like, she's unpredictable. Someone needs to, we're sticking someone on her at all times.
This girl's tempted to play with Ouija boards. We need to protect her.
They're watching you.
Well, I'm watching you.
Feel like...
I'm just kidding. I wish.
I wish I was.
Okay, we have one more EVP that we'll share at the end of the show, but do you want to share your more haunted story?
Sure. Okay, I kind of went in the same vein where basically listening to our podcast fucks with technology quite often, and people struggle to listen to us. People struggle to use their phones. People have found our podcast from their trucks turning on our podcast.
My favorite story.
Like, yeah, it's wild. We should have read that. You know what? 2 emails we received that could have been great for this episode, but we can just talk about them for a second. Was that email where someone found our podcast because his truck turned on, his podcast app opened, which I don't believe he had said he even listened to podcasts.
No.
And then it turned on to a random episode of ours. So it's not like it was even episode 1 or the most recent. It was random in the catalog, and his car turned on, opened up the podcast app, went through our discography, basically our catalog of podcasts, and chose an episode for him to play.
And then he DM'd us on Instagram, was like, I don't know who you are, but your podcast just started playing on my car out of nowhere. I've never listened to podcasts.
No.
My truck was not on.
I'm like, sorry, man, it wasn't us. It was someone around you clearly wants you to listen to something in this episode.
Which I appreciate ghosts like that.
Yeah, I agree. Which I think you read this email. There was a listener who was really struggling with mental health and was in a really low place and was close to causing harm and potentially ending her life. And our podcast started playing and skipped around. And basically,
call your mom.
The spirit world, whoever was looking out for her, was using our words and our voices, but piecing it together to make sentences to let her know that she was loved and that they're looking out for her, and to call your mom.
So wild. I actually
Chills.
have an
Every time.
email similar to that to read after you read yours. But I feel like I see your subject line and I feel like this is going to bring up a lot of discussion.
Okay. Subject line, Rick. Cue the discussion. Okay. So I turned on your recent episode of Rick this morning on my way to work, and at first my podcast wouldn't play. Then my phone powered off and back on by itself. Then your podcast, which was on play, wasn't playing at all, but it made a loud screech. And then the episode began. When you talked about the story you were telling, I went, nope. And I changed it to the next episode of Encounters. You see, I've been binging your podcast for about 2 years. One of the first episodes I listened to was Dominus, which is where we originally read the Rick story.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole day that I listened to that episode, my phone glitched, which never happens. It would pause mid-episode. It would power off by itself. Volume would go up and down by itself. I would get phone calls from people who wouldn't talk. And when I called them back, they would deny ever calling me. It was weird.
So scary.
Anyway, I wanted to write you for a long time and tell you about your podcast haunting me, not just that time, but a few times, and about my extremely haunted childhood. But I figured you get more emails than you can read and probably wouldn't read mine. Well, we're reading this one now. If you do read it, please let me know. I'll write back about my terrifying childhood. Much love. See you on the other side, Christy.
Christy, we're reading it.
We're reading this one.
The Rick episode. Dominus.
The Rick episode.
And then the Rick episode that we did the soundscaped retelling of Rick's story.
Halloween 2022.
So on Campfire Stories, our listener and friend, Kat, of our most haunted friend group, Kitty Cat, told us this story about how last week, or now I guess a month ago, she all of a sudden got this desire to re-listen to Rick over and over and over again, and was watching the YouTube video on repeat. And Kitty Cat is a wedding photographer, and she was doing all of this work on photos while listening to the episode on repeat in a weird obsessive, could not stop. Like the second ended, replay over and over and over.
I listened to it like 10 times while editing hundreds and hundreds of photos.
She went to go plug in the hard drive after the same evening, and the hard drive was corrupted. Lost everything.
Everything wiped.
Everything.
This is like 20 clients.
She
People's
updated
weddings.
us on Campfire Stories last week, and it's all gone.
No. Oh, that makes me feel so bad. I was thinking about her so much after that happened too, because I was like, that's a worst nightmare for her clients, for her, for us too. Like, why do the spirits that choose to do things and haunt things, like why do something bad like this? Like, this is so devastating. This is so unfair.
And then I want like to put all of the good ghosts together to be like, let's go combat that and recover these photos and
I know.
put together a little GBI team that's solving crimes, and we're stopping the demons from doing bad things.
I thought she would get them back because
I know.
she said she had an issue with her hard drive, a different hard drive, like long time before, and her husband recovered things because he's very techie. So I was like, oh, maybe this is just like a poorly timed situation, but clearly not if she didn't get any of it back.
I think she said something like they recovered the hard drive, but like all the photos were still corrupted on the hard drive.
I remember her saying something too. Maybe I'm twisting the story, but wasn't her computer starting to act funky with the hard drive plugged into it too? So she basically was like, okay, I have to like save my computer at least. Like, weird things.
Such weird. Ugh.
So sometimes the spirits use the podcast to leave a little EVP. Sometimes they use it. Your loved ones will use it to give you a message. And sometimes there's ghosts out there that are tricksters and mean, and unfortunately we can't weed them out of this.
We have no control. We're sorry. I do have one, but this is like a positive thing that has happened while listening to our podcast.
Okay.
So this is from our listener Mina, and she says, hey besties, let's jump right into it. Corinne, you and your podcast saved my life 2 nights ago. So I've pretty much lived in Central California my entire life. I'm originally from Fresno, California, but moved about 45 minutes south to be with my boyfriend who is in the Navy. I often drive to Fresno to hang out with my family, and the drive is pretty boring, straightforward route through smaller farming towns, and I often listen to your podcast to make the drive more enjoyable. Anyway, 2 nights ago, I was making the drive back home from visiting my family. I had stayed in the town later than I expected, so there weren't many other cars on the road by then. About 10 minutes from finally being home, I was stopped at a stoplight. Sabrina was telling a creepy story, and right as the traffic light turned green, Corinne got creeped out and yelled, "No!" Even though I knew Corinne yelling no was in response to Sabrina's story, something in my gut told me to wait a few more seconds at the light. Then suddenly, another car ran the red light and smashed into the 2 cars that were trying to cross the light I was currently at. The car that was initially hit was hit so hard that the driver's side formed around the other. Everything happened so fast. I quickly pulled over and called 911 to wait for help. When the cops arrived, the cops told us immediately that the man who ran the red light was extremely intoxicated.
Jeez.
Everyone who was involved left in critical condition. I'm still in shock. It would have been me. So thank you, Corinne, for screaming no. Thank you, Sabrina, for scaring her and making her scream. And thank you, Sven, Fruitfly, or whatever higher being there is for having my back and saving my life. See you on the other side, Mina.
Have we heard? We've heard stories like this before,
Like
right?
this.
Because
We haven't heard
part
this
of me
one,
was
but
like,
we've heard similar.
okay, because I was like, I swear this isn't the first like near miss of a car accident that we've heard before from people like panicked or stopped or reacting to stories.
Yeah.
And it just like saves them in the nick of time, which is so, oh my gosh, but how traumatizing to still like see that happen.
Witness that.
Watch people be so incredibly harmed by this accident right in front of you. It's terrifying. I'm so glad you're okay, Mina.
Yeah. And I hope everyone else is okay too.
Oh man, same.
But to be like 10 minutes from home, driving country roads, which like very rarely are there other cars on the road, and that timing, yeah, it's so scary. Jeez.
It is something like 90% of accidents happen within a mile of home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your guard is down. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm so close to home. You're just not quite.
Autopilot a bit.
Yeah, autopilot. Jeez. Oh, man. It is pretty incredible, all of these experiences that people have listening to our podcast and just letting a little bit of the dead in.
Oh, I like that. Let the dead inside. Do you want to share the last EVP?
Sure. Okay, we have an EVP that at the time that this was heard, this EVP got a lot of attention and we never addressed it. Let's play it.
Her mother that what had just happened, and after that night her sister got sick and couldn't get out of bed. The doctor came to the house and told the mother that her daughter's heart was very weak. A few days later, she passed away. Thank you for taking your time to read this. I love your...
So, you can hear,
says,
thank you.
and it's right when I say thank you.
Mm-hmm. People were shocked to hear it. It was arguably one of the clearest EVPs we've ever captured. And that is because it wasn't an EVP. It was me. And my roommate at the time was delivering me chocolate chip cookies. So if you listen carefully, you can hear the door to my bedroom open. You hear some shuffling coming in. And yeah, Elizabeth was giving me chocolate chip cookies and I was saying, thank you. And we just didn't hear it, I guess, when we were editing or I don't know.
It's also, it's very funny. And I thank you for outing yourself as the EVP of that episode.
I didn't for a long time because I was embarrassed. I didn't say anything at the time. And then I was like, I've let this go on too long. And then I just got embarrassed. But
we're outing
it's
ourselves
time,
now. It's time.
Years later, it's time to admit it was me and my insatiable hunger for chocolate chip cookies.
But I will say, it does actually prove to me that the other ones we've experienced are so real because you were whispering, thank you. And you're like close to the microphone. So that to me reiterates that a spirit has to be so close to the microphone or close to us in order to be heard in an EVP like the ones we shared earlier.
Yeah, I know. And like you can hear what's happening in the background too with that one.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones just come out of left field. It's like silence and then it's hello or choo-choo train.
This is a call to action for everyone. We already know we are the most haunted podcast in America, well on our way to becoming the most haunted podcast in the world, which we might already be, but I feel like we need more evidence to make that claim. So, call to action. Send us your hauntings that you've had related to the podcast. And if you hear EVPs, screen record and send us that segment of send us the video of it so that we can watch it and replay it and like find the EVP and
dissect them.
We'll start to do this more often. I feel like we should do it as we go, where like when we have them come up in the beginning of our episodes, we should play them.
Yeah, as we find them. I know. If anyone has like a catalog out there, like a little Excel list of all of them, let us know. But we have jotted down quite a few.
Yeah.
But I think to reiterate Sabrina's point, screen recording is actually very important, because what we found is when people put time codes in and they're like, hey, this is the time code, because with like Spotify and different players like that insert certain advertisements, when you give a time code, it might be different than what we hear, because we might be, you might be listening to Casper Mattress and we might be listening to like a, I don't know, Eversource ad or whatever. So it is different. So we really need you to screen record, because otherwise we get a little lost and we're like, where is this? I can't hear it.
Exactly. This would be very helpful for us. So please do send them. And also, Corinne, you and I have made an active effort and are making an effort to be a little bit more open and get in touch with our paranormal, like spiritual side, our mediumship, our green witchiness, whatever it may be, my astral projections, that we are kind of opening up the space a bit more. So it's opening up a room. The train is coming into the station, basically. Spirits are moving in.
I'm definitely going to have to start cleansing my space way more.
Oh, I've been cleansing so much for the episode that I'm doing research for.
Good. Everyone knows what, well, I guess not yet, but they will.
They will. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for continuing to be haunted with us and make us the most haunted podcast in America, because I think a lot of it is also you all. It's not necessarily us. It's you.
Oh, yeah. These hauntings are not for us. They are for you.
They are for you.
Let's be clear. Most of them are for you.
Yes.
Happening to you and for you.
So thank you for coming along this ride with us. I can't believe it's 200 encounters.
I know.
Y'all are haunted. We are haunted.
Y'all are haunted.
And we love you all so much. Please send us your encounters, whether it's about what happens when you listen to the podcast, EVPs, or your own experiences. Please rate and review us on iTunes. Come see us live on the road. We rescheduled the shows from the weekend we had to postpone. So those are still happening. We still have 28 cities to go to. Yeah. We can't wait to see you. And we love you all. And thank you to our editor and our team. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Avery and Loren, and our management team. We're just very grateful for all of you.
And we will see you on the other side.